In 1903, in a small cabin in Wisconsin, USA, a moment of victory unfolded for 4 individuals. In that humble space, the Harley and Davidson families breathed life into a brilliant idea. What emerged that day wasn't just a fantastic set of wheels. It was the birth of a company that stood strong through the challenges of the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and the threat of bankruptcy. Here's how Harley Davidson transformed from a small company with founders selling their homes to become a global brand valued at $4 billion. Chapter 1. The birth of Harley and Davidson. In December 1880, William Harley was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, into a middle-class family. His dad, William Sr., worked as a railroad engineer, and his mom, Mary, took care of the home. William Sr., being a skilled mechanic, often brought young Harley along when working on trains. These experiences fascinated Harley, and he began dreaming of creating his own motorized vehicles. But, like the name suggests, Harley wasn't complete without Davidson. And who would have guessed that, just a year after William Harley was born, in the same area, another legend would come into the picture. Born in 1881 in Milwaukee, Arthur Davidson grew up just a few doors away from Harley. His dad, William C. Davidson, worked as a steam fitter, and his mom, Margaret, took care of the home. Similar to Harley, Arthur found inspiration in his father, who had a keen interest in machinery and technology. William Davidson frequently encouraged his sons to experiment with tools and understand the inner workings of things. Apart from their father's encouragement, the city of Milwaukee played a significant role in shaping their ambitions. Milwaukee, a hub of the Industrial Revolution, housed various manufacturing plants, including the Allen Company, which produced the first mass-produced bicycle in the United States. This environment fueled the young minds of Harley and Davidson, setting the stage for something big. But this big dream only came true when these two met and became friends while working in a factory. Fascinated by their love for bikes, William and Arthur's paths crossed at Barth Manufacturing. William, a draftsman, and Arthur, a pattern maker, shared more than just a workplace. But in 1901, it wasn't their jobs that sparked a big idea. It was a fun night out. They headed to a vaudeville show to see Anna Held's lively performance. Amid the excitement, one stage prop caught their attention. Anna had zipped across on a unique 3-wheeler powered by a single-cylinder engine. As the wheels turned on that unsuspecting ride, little did they know, they were about to kickstart a revolution in automotive history. Chapter 2. The start of the Harley Davidson factory. Not long after bumping into each other, fired up by the fun theater night, the two buddies started playing around with 1-cylinder engines for bikes. Getting a little hand from their pal Henry Milk, their first try involved sticking a small engine and belt drive into a bike. It was like a bicycle with pedals and an assisted motor, but it fell short of their expectations, proving weak and failing to meet their goals. Yet, in 1903, they pressed on with renewed determination. They got a bigger engine and redesigned the frame, yet issues kept popping up, making it clear they needed more help. Davidson wrote a letter to his brother Walter, a skilled machinist working for a railroad in Kansas, stressing how much his skills were needed. Taking a bold step, Walter quit his job and came back to Milwaukee to give a hand. With a sharp eye, he worked hard to make the evolving machine better. About to create their next prototype with Walter's help, it seemed not everyone was thrilled with their progress. Dad, William C. Davidson, seemingly a bit bothered by his son's growing project, suggested moving it from the basement to the backyard. Turning the backyard into their new workspace, they put in thorough effort and crafted a 10 by 15 foot wooden shed. Little did they know, this shed would mark the birth of the first Harley Davidson factory. Their larger and mightier prototype hit the scene in 1904, making its debut in a Milwaukee motorcycle race at State Fair Park. Ridden by Edward Hildebrand, it clinched a respectable 4th place. As the company expanded rapidly, it became clear they needed more funds to grow. Davidson's uncle stepped in, lending them money, and thanks to that in 1904, they doubled the size of their backyard. Still missing a dealer to broaden their reach, luck came knocking when they found Carl H. Lang, a renowned dealer at that time. That year, Carl sold 3 bikes from the 5 built in the Davidson backyard shed, and it was a small victory moment for the lads. While they were producing complete bikes on a limited scale, the breakthrough came in 1906. Harley and Davidson brothers established their first factory on Chestnut Street, which is the current home of Harley Davidson's corporate headquarters. In 1907, William S. Harley graduated with a mechanical engineering degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That same year, they expanded the factory by adding another floor and later enhancing it with fronts and additions made of Milwaukee's pale yellow brick. With these new facilities, motorcycle production surged to 150 units in 1907. In 1913, recognizing the growing demand, a modern 6-floor brick factory was erected. The company was thriving until it encountered its first significant challenge, the onset of the First World War. Chapter 3: The First Challenge. It was a tough time. Everything came to a halt, and war had left Europe in ruins. Being a crucial trade partner, the US felt the impact. The turning point arrived when the US entered the First World War. And cometh the hour, cometh the man. Harley Davidson rose to the occasion. In 1917, around half of Harley's sales supported the US Armed Forces during the war, amounting to over 20,000 motorcycles purchased by the military. The war became an unexpected marketing moment, and post-war, Harley Davidson soared. By 1920, it claimed the title of the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer, producing 28,189 machines and establishing dealerships in 67 countries. The iconic facility on Juneau Avenue, standing tall at 7 stories, was also completed and still serves as the corporate office today. Another victory moment came in 1921 when Otto Walker, a biker, set a record on a Harley Davidson as the first motorcycle to win a race at an average speed of over 100 miles per hour. During this era, Harley Davidson also diversified with models like the 1000cc HT 1923 and Flathead V-Twin, gaining popularity not only in the US, but also among its neighbors. For instance, in 1929, Vivian Bales, a renowned motorcycle cover girl, set a record by driving 5,000 miles across the United States and Canada on the V-Twin. But the success took a turn, and an even greater challenge loomed on the horizon for Harley: the Great Depression. The grip of the Great Depression shook the company's prior success. Sales dropped drastically from 21,000 units in 1929 to a mere 3,703 in 1933. To stay afloat during the remaining depression, the company shifted focus, crafting industrial power plants based on their motorcycle engines. They also introduced a 3-wheel delivery vehicle called the Cervicar. Moreover, during the Great Depression, Harley Davidson offered to let riders send their tanks and fenders back to the factory for a fresh coat of paint. This 1929 JDH received just such a treatment in the mid-1930s. The paint is the original repaint and features the 30s Speedball decal. Despite these efforts, global economic conditions weren't favorable, pushing the company dangerously close to bankruptcy. But it somehow managed to overcome that through creativity. Realizing they had to do more to stay competitive, Harley Davidson introduced the 61 OHV motor in 1936, better known as the Knucklehead. The 61 OHV's valve corners resembled a boxer's closed fists and lasted for only 12 years on the market. But the Knucklehead served as the foundation for subsequent larger models in the years ahead. By 1937, all Harley-Davidson motorcycle flathead engines featured dry sump oil recirculation systems, mirroring the design initially introduced in the Knucklehead OHV engine. Thus, Harley-Davidson navigated through the challenges of the Great Depression, standing as one of only 2 American motorcycle makers to survive, Indian being the other. But as they navigated one crisis, another one was just waiting around the corner. Chapter 4: The Second World War and Beyond. When the Second World War unfolded, it posed an even greater threat to the company. Given its already established global recognition, a world war meant potential reductions in sales, trade limitations, logistical challenges, and much more. However, a glimmer of hope emerged when the US entered the war, leading to an increased demand for military vehicles. This circumstance not only sustained the company, but also reinforced its image of freedom. From 1941 to 1945, Harley-Davidson assured dealers of 1 new bike per model year due to commitments with the Army. An estimated 88,000 motorcycles were built for the military during this period, accompanied by a substantial supply of repair parts. Responding to the US Army's request, Harley-Davidson developed a new motorcycle with features inspired by BMW's side valve and shaft-driven R71. In recognition of its significant contributions, Harley-Davidson was honored with 2 Army-Navy E Awards in 1943 and 1945. acknowledging excellence in production for its immense wartime efforts. The war was a blessing in disguise for the company because it built a counterculture that laid the foundation of the Harley Davidson lifestyle. In a time when America leaned conservative, many returning individuals rejected the norm, declaring, "I'm getting a Harley Davidson motorcycle," embracing freedom, mobility, and attitude. As a result, between 1945 and 1970, the registered motorcycle count in the US skyrocketed from 198,000 to 2.8 million. Hollywood also did its magic that truly distinguished Harley Davidson motorcycles, featuring them prominently in films like The Wild One and Easy Rider. But the coming years brought another big challenge that shook the foundations of Harley Davidson. The 1980s were a wild ride for the company. Everything started shaking up in 1969 when the American Machine and Foundry (AMF) Corporation took over. Suddenly, Harley Davidson motorcycles weren't as awesome, their quality went down, and people weren't so sure about them anymore. Under AMF, the focus shifted to making a ton of bikes quickly, and the careful crafting kinda got ignored. As a result, the sales went down. Then, the whole world got hit with an economic slump in the early 1980s. It was like a punch in the gut for the motorcycle business, and Harley Davidson felt the pain too. People had less money to spend, and interest rates were sky high, so buying a motorcycle became a luxury not many could afford. The competition also became fierce. Japanese motorcycle makers were winning hearts with their bikes that were cheaper and used less gas, so Harley Davidson had a tough time keeping up. Inside the company, things weren't so great either. The workers were feeling down, and the whole vibe needed a makeover. The way they made motorcycles was old school and slowed them down. The cool image of freedom in that open road that Harley Davidson once had, well, it was gradually starting to fade away. It was a bumpy road, but Harley Davidson wasn't ready to give up just yet. In the mid-1980s, recognizing the urgent need for change, a group of Harley Davidson executives, spearheaded by Von Beals and Willie G. Davidson, orchestrated a management buyout, reclaiming the company's independence from AMF in 1981. This move marked the beginning of another transformative era for Harley Davidson. Under the new leadership, a commitment to quality and innovation was reinstated. The iconic brand sought to reconnect with its heritage and the passion of its riders. The development of the Evolution engine in 1984 showcased the company's dedication to technological advancements while maintaining the traditional V-twin design. In 1984, the company pocketed a profit of $2.9 million, and just 2 years later, that number jumped to $4.3 million. Harley Davidson went public in 1986, and the cash kept rolling into the 2000s. By 2006, with its main customers hitting middle age, the company's stock price soared, and it reported a whopping $1 billion in profit. However, the good times hit a roadblock in 2007 when the recession struck. Like many others during the Great Recession, Harley faced sales challenges. Its stock price took a hit, dropping 60 points from its 2006 peak to 2009. This 86% drop marked a 13-year low, marking the beginning of the company's decline. Chapter 5: The beginning of the decline. Besides economic factors, Harley's downturn can be linked to demographics. In 1985, the typical motorcycle owner was around 27. Fast forward to 2003, and it had risen to 41. By 2018, it had climbed to 50, indicating that Harley Davidson's customer base is aging, and currently, there's no one stepping in to fill the gap. Presently, the company is grappling with challenges in the aftermath of the pandemic, and 2023 has been eventful for Harley Davidson. It has grabbed attention with the introduction of new motorcycles, some of which result from its partnerships with China's QJ Motor and India's Hero Motocorp. But the company is still facing a substantial $52.6 million credit loss owing to supply chain issues and high cost. According to the Wall Street Journal, Harley Davidson ran into a problem. They were having a tough time getting back motorcycles from people who hadn't paid up. This hiccup caused their credit loss rate to shoot up by 46%, going from 2% to 3.2%. To break it down, credit loss means the money the company couldn't get back. So, what's causing this mess? First off, Harley's having a tough time finding enough repossession agents. Many of these companies bounced during the pandemic, leaving a shortage of them. On the flip side, there's a headache with how they collect the bikes. Most owners keep their rides in garages or indoors, making it a bit of a mission for the repo agent to leave the truck, walk to the door, and ask for the bike back. It's not as smooth as it sounds, and according to Jeremy Cross, the owner of a recovery company, It's risky. To add to the chaos, some collection companies feel Harley Davidson isn't paying enough for the gig. This means truck companies would rather go for similar paying jobs without the risk of getting shot at. So, Harley's dealing with a double whammy, and fixing this puzzle will need a smart plan. Harley Davidson, from its humble beginnings to iconic status, faced trials in 2 world wars, creating legendary motorcycles. Today, it stands at a critical point, embodying resilience in the American dream. From crafting motorcycles for the military during wartime to becoming a symbol of freedom and rebellion, Harley Davidson has woven itself into the fabric of American culture.